Okay, the next problem I'm going to do is number 1. First step is always the same on these limit problems that we're solving analytically for right now. I'm going to plug a 0 in for the x's and see if I get a real answer, meaning see if I don't get a 0. I don't want 0 on the bottom. So I'll plug in zeros for the x's. When I do, I get square root of 5 minus the square root of 5, which is 0, and I get 0 again on the bottom. This lets me know that I can do some fancy math. I can do some algebra manipulation. So let's recopy the limit down, which again, we talked about that being very important to make sure we're carrying that down. I'm going to recopy my problem. And I picked one of the harder radical ones to show you, and then hopefully the other ones will be a little easier. When you have things being subtracted here, and we have radicals either on one or both, one thing that's helpful is to multiply by the conjugate. Conjugate is the exact same thing, but only change the sign in the middle. So that becomes x plus 5 plus the square root of 5. And please make sure you do that top and bottom, because then this whole ugly fraction here just equals 1. And if you multiply by 1, you're not changing the value. That's why you're allowed to do it. Now, next thing I want you to do is anytime you see pluses or minuses, I'd like you to put parentheses around them, which just lets you know you either cross out all of it or none of it. So I look and I'm going to kind of simplify this. Your teacher might have said FOIL or distribute out. So I'm going to do square root of x plus 5 times the square root of x plus 5 first. That would give me x plus 5. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the outside right here. And if I do square root of x plus 5 times the square root of 5, I get positive square root of x plus 5, square root 5. But when I do this in here, I get the same thing, but it's a negative square root 5 times the square root of x plus 5. They cancel each other out. That's the beauty of multiplying by the conjugate. You don't have to do the outside-inside. They'll always cross out. So the next thing I'm going to do is multiply the negative square root of 5 times the positive square root 5. When I do that, I simply get negative 5, because a negative times a positive is a negative, and square root 5 times square root 5 is 5. Continuing to simplify the top, x plus 5 minus 5 is just x. And I kind of look ahead. I think about this type of math as playing chess. I look down at the bottom and I think, I have an x and this as factors. I'm going to bring them over because I notice that these could cross out. Cross out my x's because they're common factors. Make sure I put a 1 on the top to hold that spot. Then I simply substitute the 0 in for the x's. So the simplified version was 1 over square root of x plus 5 plus the square root of 5. If I substitute in a 0, 0 plus 5 is 5. So I have 1 over the square root of 5 plus the square root of 5, which if you type it into your calculator, that's about 0.22. If you want a more exact answer, a better simplified answer, if you have 1 square root of 5 plus another square root of 5, I'd be happy if you wrote 2 square roots of 5. Hopefully you also remember from Algebra 1 that Algebra 1 or 2, that you can't have a square root in the denominator. So you could multiply both the top and the bottom by the square root of 5. 1 times the square root of 5 is square root of 5. 2 square roots of 5 times the square root of 5 is the same as 2 times 5, because if I multiply those together I get 5, which is 10. I am okay with this answer, or if you type it in and give me the decimal, all of those are fine. I'm going to get you started on another one in the packet that has square roots where you'd use a conjugate. I think I'm going to go over number 11. Just give you the start. Again, the first step is to show this substitution in where you plug in this case it's a negative 3 for the x. When I do that, negative 3 plus 7 is 4, square root of 4 is 2, 2 minus 2 is 0, negative 3 plus 3 is 0. This is key. lets me know there's possibly a hole in the graph, but it also lets me know I can do some more math. I'm going to give you the first step for this one. Again, be careful about recopying the limit. X plus 7 minus 2 over x plus 3. I'm going to multiply it by the conjugate of the one that has the square root, which is square root of x plus 7 plus 2. Make sure I do that top and bottom, because this right here is just a form of 1. That's why I'm allowed to multiply it by it. And again, cannot be too parenthesis happy. And then multiply that out, FOIL it, and you should find that this one would be able to be simplified, and then plug in the -3 again. So that gets you started on number 11.